Like 3, 2, and we're live here from the MIT Media Lab. I'm Daz Greenwood, scientist here, and this is a collaboration between MIT and Brooklyn Law School and the Blip Clinic, and friend and collaborator, leader, Jonathan Askin, in his class with his law students there, who's been helping us to put together this novel new pairing with the American Bar Association, doing an online legal Appathon, they're calling it. So what we're doing during this class is a little bit of planning. We're checking in on what we think the process is going to be for a launch on Friday, a couple of days from now, and then we'll have lightning rounds of great projects from the law students in Blip. We're getting a little bit of feedback here. And with your permission, I'll hand it over to Jason, who's been leading the team here in Boston in collaboration with the Media Lab, and who's going to be helping us to launch as a co-leader Massachusetts Legal Hackers. That's a little preview of what will happen in a few days. And he's been basically leading the refactoring of the online legal process, and he's going to start just by walking us through how it looks now. Is the audio okay to continue?
It's mostly good. Jason came out a little bit staticky before. I'm muting us now so that you have all the...
Yeah, so just unmute if you have any questions. Basically, what we're going to be looking at is roughly the schedule that you would want to be working with, as well as the data that you're going to have to be entering. So around the 8th, what you're going to do as someone who's putting an idea, you would go through, create a GitHub account if you don't already have one, and either fork from one of the projects that Daz is going to provide, or create your own repository, so that we're going to have some endpoint for looking at any code or looking at any documentation that you create as part of that. The second would likely be to go over to the collaboration environment. That is the application that we've been working on for the last 3 weeks or so that you'd be able to create basically a summary as well as anything that's associated with the project, like that GitHub link. So you just basically quickly provide what the project background is, what problem you're trying to solve, what your metrics for success are, for example, as part of that. You'd be doing that all around the 8th. Once we hit the 12th, we would fork into a different repository any of the projects that have GitHub repos, and then do an evaluation at that time. So you provide, as part of that, the GitHub repo, as well as a YouTube summary or description of the project itself. And then that would be handed off internally inside the app for any of our reviewers to look at those and provide you with feedback at the same time. After that point, we would have a gallery of all of the completed projects, as well as the associated YouTube videos that you created for the demos. But that's roughly where we're going with that. What we're looking at for the tool that we're creating to support you is we're adding in that rating functionality. We're adding in some of the work for being able to pull repositories from GitHub, as well as some of the other ways of linking up the YouTube videos. So it's very much work in progress, but the goal is to be able to support you. If there's something that you would think is a great artifact to include, we could add that in the future as we're going through this review process.
So I'll start with some questions, because I suspect some of the students are confused about what they need to specifically create and post to GitHub.
Awesome.
They need to create. They can just create their own GitHub. They go to github.org, github.com.
I'm sorry, you dropped out there.
They go to it's github.org or github.com.
Github.com, I believe.
Github.com. They just create their own account. They can create their own repo. Does it have to link to Daz's GitHub?
No, it does not. What Daz will provide is he'll point you over to a sample repository. So as part of the setup, you just go in, create your account, and then go over to Daz's page, and up in the upper right-hand side of Daz's repository, you'll see something called fork this repository. And you can just fork that as a baseline setup for your project. That would include a README, it can include license information, and it could include a sample docs directory as well. So you would, if you wanted to start with what Daza has provided as a template, that would be a good and easy way to start, but you could do it on your own.
How do they find Daza's GitHub?
He will provide it as a link in the setup email.
Or like that, yeah. That's what you get.
That would be provided before, obviously, before the project starts.
And
but if you want,
that would be sent to me that I could blast to the students and others?
Yes.
Where will we find that link?
We're doing everything under, right now, legalapathon.org.
DAZA says it's all going to be under an organization called legalapathon.org, and I can post that into this the channel right now.
Legalapathon.org, and I've looked at the site. It's actually quite clean. All right. So what? My question: what should they be posting to their GitHubs now? Will it not their videos, just their concept?
Just the concept. And so if you have anything like your app or your design, you have a particular problem and you want to create something out of it, that would just be the place where you store all of those artifacts. If you wanted to create a mobile application, you could store your source code in there. If you wanted to create even slides, that would be a great place to put it. If you want to have even an HTML page that allows just a walkthrough, that's all a good location to store those. But it's effectively anything that you want to generate as part of your project work. So if you have someone on the technical side and they want to create a Rails app inside that repository.
All right. Now, because most of the students are law students and not steeped in technology,
yep.
Our hacks are going to be relatively technology clean.
Yep.
Right? It's going to be more, wordsmithing and platforms and flow charts and not too much technology built into the GitHub repo. What they will need at some point is technological partners.
Yes.
So even by the Appathon, if they don't have technological partners, they're going to present the idea, but not in a clean, user-friendly online form.
Right. That's totally viable. I think Daza mentioned what he was looking at in terms of the artifacts.
Yep. So I think what we've got it down to now is what we need to discuss and conclude soon is 3 things. One thing is that one pager. At first to disclose, it's like the idea, and that's got like a title, an abstract, and like text. And that's a real good place for if all you have, and that's actually a lot, is the idea. You would just write it there. The second thing is if you want to have a review of it, you would also want to submit by the deadline a link to a YouTube video, and we were thinking not to exceed 2 minutes. And what you said about 90 seconds, I think, is a very good target. But not to exceed, it's hard to do 90 seconds, so not to exceed 2 minutes, we're thinking, to be responsive. And then anyone that did those 2 things, I'm inclined to say we consider that a responsive project, and everyone would get a review at that point, go into the gallery. If people had more than that, instead of emailing PowerPoint slides or code if you have it or other stuff, we just want you to put it into a GitHub repository, really is the bottom line. And if necessary, you can call us and we'll walk you through getting an account and setting up a repository and making it simple. Many people will already have their own repository for projects, and you can send us a link. But we do want to take advantage of the opportunity to propagate use of GitHub as part of this. And if GitHub's good for storing files, if you have files, store them in GitHub. So it's the one pager in first to disclose, a YouTube video for your demo, not to exceed 2 minutes, and if you have files, chuck them in GitHub, and you are good to go.
When you say good to go, it brings me to 2 questions. One is, when do they need that uploaded to their GitHub?
Yeah, so what we have now is a tentative schedule on the wiki which we worked out with that weekend with Adriana, I think, Jonathan, is, let me find it right now, but basically the deadline is, I think the hacking starts on like the, so there's a date, and I think it's Sunday, I forgot the April something, 12th, I think. And we were talking about maybe it would be like around noon. It might be an early enough time to give judges a couple hours or so to evaluate the process and to talk about things, and then that we could start doing review sessions live by Hangout, basically with the teams that would like reviews, and we've got different ideas, ways to schedule that are pretty clean and simple, so that everybody could be going home, by perhaps 4 p.m. that day, or we could do some fun things after that for an hour if we had announcements or fun things as well. So that was our thought. We're thinking noon Eastern time to be the deadline that Sunday for your projects. Whatever you have at that point is the deadline, and then we'll review it initially later that afternoon.
April 12th. All right. So what if? So here's my concern, and my concern is something good for the Appathon. Good things to demo. So my question is sort of twofold. I guess one is, what if come April 16th or April 18th, whenever they're demoing, all they've really got still is that 90-second video and the one-pager? Is that good enough to show?
For some projects, I think that's got to be good enough, in my view, Jonathan. I'd like to get your opinion on it. We might classify it with another tag. We've got tags that we use on first to disclose, as especially for patent classification, but also to know the ideas. We could classify that as something that is not a project with code. It's a project that's more conceptual. But those are good projects. Those could be for future hackathons, things that people might want to actually build or join your team to build. And we don't want to lose those. Those could be much more valuable than any particular instantiation of code. So I would strongly recommend that we accept those as responsive and that they are first-class citizens and they get a review like everyone else.
Good. That's what I was hoping you'd say, which brings me to sort of the follow-up or the preceding, what should have been the preceding question. What if they don't complete their 90-second video and their one-pager by April 12th at noon? Are they out of the water?
We have a very, very special one-time offer, which is affectionately known as round 2. And round 2, it will have to commit to pretty soon, like I'm kind of thinking today, Jonathan, and then put in the schedule if we want to do it. But the concept was to match well with the ABA Tech Show. We wanted to have something to show at the opening plenary, and that would be best of this first round of projects that we just said. And the opening plenary is, I think, Wednesday or something, or Tuesday. It will have like a day or two to curate the results of from that Sunday and put a video together and something at the opening plenary. Then the closing plenary is like a few days after that, the 18th, I think. So we realized we could very easily just repeat the cycle of projects, and people could continue.
Yep.
New people might want to do projects, and then they would have maybe 2 or 3 days, like a normal hackathon period time, to do their projects. So we might actually, if we got Slashdotted, or if we got New York Times article because it was more popular, because maybe people heard about it at the beginning of the ABA plenary, we could have hundreds of teams, in theory, in the second round, truncated. So we could have a second round, and you could continue them then. And yet again, though, I would just like to advocate, if the students get great feedback and they really hone the idea in the one-pager, and they have a better YouTube video or a YouTube video, then I would still think we should accept those 2 artifacts as responsive at the end of the second round, if we do a second round, and encourage people to do GitHub. All you have to do is put something in GitHub. You can put a Microsoft Word document, you can put a PowerPoint slides, anything in GitHub. And then guess what? You're the kind of legal hacker that uses GitHub at that point. That's actually good.
Do any of you have questions? Any of you that are planning to do it? And don't be shy with the questions. If you're not familiar with GitHub, this is a good time to ask. If you're still not sure what might be expected, how you succeed in this Appathon, this is a good time to ask.
Right. So New York State Attorney General's office. And can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're a disembodied voice. I guess it's okay.
We'll turn the camera.
Would you? Yeah, thanks.
Well, on this one.
Hi, nice to meet you.
So we are considering, and we'll be meeting tomorrow as an office to discuss a couple pitches for apps that we could include within this Appathon. Your face makes me think that you're expecting wonderful things. I don't think they're going to be. I don't think they're going to be that great. But the question is, can we submit the one-pager and maybe ask a student to do the YouTube video? I mean,
yes.
Do it if you have to, but it would be nice if we had if I didn't have to be on the YouTube video.
Yes, I would. My take on that would be that that's recommended, because now we're talking about a team, quite literally.
Frankly, I mean, when I think about hackathons, I think about nonprofits, charities, government entities saying, here's the problem. Hackers, policymakers, user designers, help us figure this out in a hack.
Right. second question I have, and this is sort of for all three of you, is our office was thinking about, we've already been thinking about the need for apps to connect with various aspects of what our office provides and connects with the citizenry on. I think that we were hoping for something that plugs into either the open data sources that we already have within our control, or something that's just a very basic need of our office. For example, an app that allows you to submit a complaint. I mean, it sounds very simple, but there is no such thing. We, in fact, the Internet Bureau is the only bureau in the office where you can submit a complaint online. Yay! So we have really pedestrian needs. They're not necessarily very exciting. They're sexy, but they're very real. If you want to reach people and have them do that, would that offend your sensibilities? Would that drag you down too much? Would be too uncool if we come up with some very low level?
Personally, I would
say that it would not offend us. It would honor us, and it would be very cool, and it would uplift us, not take us down. And in fact, Jason and I just had a little sidebar about how we could help you with that aspiration of yours. Jason, what can we do?
Yeah, we can go through and create a sample project just as part of this hackathon, just to proxy for you. But for something like that, particularly complaint management, prioritization, something like that, we could certainly work on what the problem statement is and then options for the implementation. Basically, we would proxy for what would be a project that would be very similar to any of the projects that the students are working on.
In other words, we'll do that for you. Yeah. So the complaint, not the other one. The data source is sort of undetermined and hard to commit to, but we can certainly commit to work with you in your office on describing the need for complaint process and getting the data and understanding what that would look like, and then creating a bit of a prototype, Jason and I, so that you've got something to start. And then ideally, people will come along and go, oh, we could do it much better. Hey, that's terrific. Then we'll get some better projects to maybe do your complaint form and intake even better, so you'll have better things to choose from after. With respect to the data, let's talk about that for a moment. This is near and dear to our heart. The lab that I work in MIT is a big data lab, basically, run by Professor Sandy Pentland, and we do quite a few hackathons with government partners and others, where the whole hackathon is based on analytics or other wrangling of data. And so I guess the question I have there is, what kind of data sources did you have in mind, if you could say something about it? Or otherwise, I'd suggest that we maybe have an offline email, and there may be some easy wins if you're using Socrata or some other maybe well-known APIs where we might be able to help you to at least articulate that as a area for projects, and maybe even match you with teams that are already doing things that are a fit, potentially, right? Sure.
So I can answer quickly that, first of all, New York City and New York State both have open data websites that allow you, the complaint is that they're not really that easy to use. They could be a lot easier in terms of accessibility, but nevertheless, they're there. And the cities, it's okay. The states is mediocre. But in terms of data that's there, not bad. And we are looking in the next year to really not just enhance the usability function of the open data site, but also add to it in terms of addition. We're big believers in open data. So, so we're with you there right now because we just want to get to a win on this Appathon, on this particular project, as I know all the students do here. We are really looking at easy asks of our open data. So just let's build it now, and then we can build it out later.
Agreed. Sure. So maybe a good way forward on that, because data is something that's really very, very important, and there are many good tools that we can make available. That maybe what we might think about doing is schedule a hangout where we could talk, where you could help us identify the right people in the AG's office, and possibly in that deal with the portal or the other APIs with some data sets, and then we could have like a half-hour or an hour conversation where we kind of walk through the data and brainstorms. And if we knew what the data was, we might have people in our lab actually that won hackathons with that type of data, Sandy's group won a big hackathon with Vodafone using UK data, crime data, and we created a predictive model that was uncannily good in figuring out where certain types of crimes were likely to be in very small bits of real estate in London at certain times of day. So it's depends on the data, whether it's a consumer protection or allocation of other types of regulatory resources, but whatever it is, or consumer education, public information. Like if you can sort of maybe help us understand some of the types of data, some of the types of missions that you have in your constitutional office. Why don't we just do an hour hangout and talk about it, and then generate ideas? And if that's all that happens, then hey, you'll have an hour video that you could point people to for other hackathons, or that you could hire or do an RFI for, and it might stimulate projects that people could then take and run with. That's my suggestion and offer.
Well, I'll connect with the three of you offline. We'll make another time.
Yeah. Oh, they're going to be a great ongoing resource for you. Do you imagine roles for law students, or is it really roles for web developers?
Well, this is really, it depends. If someone wants to intern with our office, perhaps I'm happy to hook them up with something. But
2Ls.
Right, 2Ls, Collins Club. But we actually we see a role for web developers, and we've thought about sort of hosting our own Appathon in the future. The problem for government isn't, well, there are two fundamental problems for government, and this gets us a bit off track, but the two fundamental problems for government when it comes to projects like this is, what data do you have? Because often data is siloed and in a format that's not accessible, and only certain people know that they have it. So that's a problem with government generally. And then the second problem is, great, so you have a lot of data. What's the problem that you want to solve? Data is just data. You have to know what box to put it in. So it's a matter of us figuring out, and that is the real challenge. Okay, so what do you want to do with an app? So tomorrow we're putting, I think, some really good thinkers in who are thinking about, not long-term. Long-term, we'd love to have a voting rights app and civil rights apps and who's the politician in your district app. And yeah, I see you going like this. It's really great.
This is Daz's day job.
but for this next 3 weeks, we're trying to keep it a little simpler. But we're already thinking about this in the long term. So let's talk. We'll talk smaller level, because we would like to have a usable product. If not by the end of the ABA conference, we'd like to be able to say, look at what we're doing in collaboration with everyone else. Whether or not there's a lawsuit involved in it or not, I mean, I'm happy to work with the lawsuit.
I don't care. You got the platform. If we resolve this simple problem on April 18th, we declare victory.
There you go.
Yes.
I'll make Josh do the video.
Yeah, and certainly what we could do to support that is we could proxy those into sample projects for this particular Appathon, meaning that what you can see as, like anyone else who's actually considering creating a project, before the Appathon actually begins, you would actually be able to take a look at what a sample project would be. You could even copy it, mutate it, just reuse it entirely, if that works for you. But yeah, you wouldn't have to necessarily, you could actually take the idea, take the data set, basically whatever we were looking at originally, and just make that your own project.
Yeah, we have a concept that Adriana wants us to work on, which I think Jason's referring to, of having people propose projects and then kind of think through what a project would look like and write it out, but then not be the team that does the project. And then teams could choose that project rather than inventing their own, or could choose it as a starting point and then maybe put a spin on it that they find better. So Jason, I think just volunteer to, as part of talking with you about your data, and that does make sense, to have like the outcome of that conversation be that we'll proxy, one or more such projects, so that there's some artifact that comes out of it that people could take forward in the Appathon or perhaps later. That makes sense, I think.
Fantastic.
So let me say this. We're going to get kicked out of here in about 7 minutes or so.
So what do you think, Jonathan? What do we do?
Well, you had suggested you want to do some promo videos. Is that an important, is that something we really want on the front end? If it is, we should probably try to do some. I'm not sure if we're going to get any polished promo videos from the students. My thinking is, if they had a week to think about this, we've got Lloyd with a camera. we can shoot some professional, some really good 90-second spots over the next week to two, whatever it is, 12 days until so we can do stuff in better lighting and all that stuff and do some good stuff. But I don't know what you want now. You said you wanted something by Friday. You wanted some stuff.
We think we have a good way forward. Jason's going to describe it. It's basically yes and.
So yeah, if we want to go through and just have even preliminarily those videos in place, and then a quick summary of problem, and then core idea, I think that would actually move us forward, so we can actually then just proxy everything through GitHub plus the collaboration site. That should be good enough. I don't think we have to do it now.
That's right, yeah. So what you said about next week, more polish makes sense. The one thing I would just implore you to do is, this is an agile process, okay? This is a process where we iterate. We start with something, you have a scrap of something or like a thing, and then we improve it by being able to look at it in bigger groups and propose changes. So I would just ask, could you please, everyone that has a project that you're willing to share, even if you're not sure yet if you'll work on it as a team in the Appathon, could you please, and Jonathan, could you help us ensure that we get like the title and the abstract of what that project is and like who the person or people are behind it, and so that we can start creating a gallery of those things, and then we could help you iterate them when you put your videos together and know kind of how many we have and what they cover, and start getting resources to you.
All right, so two questions. By when? By when do you want that?
End of the week. I think by Monday would be fine. I don't think we're and the essentially we have a little bit more time. So by Monday should.
Oh, it's a Good Friday. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and also.
All right. All right. We'll do our best on that front. Wait, what was my second question? Should they all when you say posting it, should they be posting it to their own GitHub, or should they be posting it to legalappathon.org?
Legal Appathon. So what I'll do right after up this call is I'll create a form on Legal Appathon on the front page of the project, and we really just need for right now. What I was talking about, Jason, was like just one thing, which is like the title and an abstract, like of a few paragraphs, and who are you, so that we can get back to you, and then we'll know how many from Blip Clinic, what your ideas are. Just because, of course, we weren't here in the first half of class to hear them, and we'd like to know what those are, and then we can, if you could do that, today or tomorrow, like just only take 3 or 4 minutes is fine as a placeholder. So, that would be very helpful, and then we can iterate from there.
All right. And look,
that would be my best move.
Back out, but put it there. Excellent. All right. Anything else, guys?
We think you're fantastic. Is there anything else? Like, thank you for kind of like lighting the fire and kind of leading the way, Jonathan. Like we're fully with you.
Look, we would be flailing all around without you, Jazzy. So thanks. Yeah. All right. Good to see you guys. Good to meet you.
You too. Thanks. So now I do my.
Before everyone leaves, look, we've got Lloyd and Harold. We've got good equipment. We've got good rooms. We could do beautiful 90-second spots. So when you're ready to do your 90-second spot, do you have like? Should we just like one off whenever?
Now, this thing about if he wants this, not org, my bad, and a panoply of other delightful URLs along the way. So thanks, Jason. Thanks all. Ciao.